Hi, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Auto Repair Marketing Podcast with Kim and Brian Walker. Today, our guests are Tim Chakarian with Bimmer PhD and Tatsu Tsuchida with Tokyo Automotive. But before we get started, I want to give a shout out to our sponsor. So thank you to our friends at RepairPal for providing this episode. As shop owners, we were part of RepairPal Certified Network, and it was great for our business. Learn more about RepairPal at repairpal.com/shops. Well, Tim and Tatsu, we are grateful to have you here today. Let me give y'all just a quick opportunity to introduce yourselves and tell a little bit about your shops. Tim, why don't you go first?
All right. Well, my name is Tim Chakarian. My wife and I, Johanna Reichert, own and run Bimmer PhD Motorsports here in Pasadena, California. We've been in business for about 13 years. I started the shop as a single technician, leaving the dealership because I thought I could do it better on my own. And 13 years later, we've grown into a 3-tech, 2 advisor, 1 helper, and Johanna and myself running the business. So it's been a fun growth process, and I love playing the infinite game.
Awesome. All right, Tatsu.
My story starts a little bit further back. My father started a shop in 1978. I grew up sweeping the floors, taking out the trash, and that kind of thing. Never in my mind I ever had anything else in my mind that I wanted to do with my life other than to take over the shop. I even went to business school while going to automotive trade school at the same time, and I never wanted to be in the cubicle farm, and my only end goal was to get to a point where I can take over Dad's shop. Well, there's a lot more to it, and we could talk at length about it, but that's kind of
I
the
never
short of
knew
it.
that you went to both schools at the same time. That's a new, very cool fact for me to know about you. It's pretty amazing. Cool
It'd be a
deal.
fun one to talk about sometime too, because most shop owners come just strictly from a technician background, but you had the benefit before owning the business of being able to get that business background as well. So that would be a great thing to talk about sometime. But today, we're here to talk about something a little bit different. And look, there's no telling where this episode's going to go. We're just going to have fun today, and we're going to talk about some different things. But I was on a call that Kent Bullard with the Institute had put on that was about marketing. He just kind of threw it out there to their members and said, "Hey, let's have a call about marketing, and let's just kind of a round table. Let's talk about some different things." And I had the benefit of being on that call. And during the call, Tim brought up a guerrilla marketing technique that he used, and I love guerrilla marketing. It's one of my favorite types of marketing to do, and it's how we got started in our shop when we were marketing when we had no marketing budget. But I love what it was that you did, Tim. So why don't you tell our listeners about this thing that you've been doing?
Yeah, it's we call it bird dropping, so it's quite effective. What we wanted to do was put our name out there to our clients, but at the same time, leave them with a small gift. Yeah, so I think both Tatsu and I both do that, and we got the idea from being in a 20s group with the Institute, the WorldPack 20s group, which was coordinated or managed by Cecil. We got the idea from there. We were in a group, and there was another shop owner that was doing this and said he had great success. So we took some great notes, and on the back side of it, here we've got a little air freshener. And
So
it's got our logo on it.
Kind of describe the whole thing though from the beginning, because a lot of people are just going to be listening and won't actually get the opportunity to see it.
Gotcha. All right. So what we do is we got together with our shop, and we wanted to leave a gift for our clients. So we picked 5 scents throughout the kit that they had, and it was really fun because the technicians got to have some input on it, which design they liked, and ultimately what we've got is a small little air freshener that's in a sealed bag, and it's attached to a waterproof little flyer, and it has our statement on it. It says fueled by passion, driven to excel. And it talks about our 3-year, 36,000 mile warranty. And we put this on customer cars. The way that I've got it situated is if you put it in their grab handle, they'll see it. And then when they grab it, they'll have a small little gift. And this was a very effective tool for us because I heard other shop owners had great success with it in another Euro shop down in Orange County. So we decided to try it. And it was a fun project. The very first time we went out with it, my son at the time was 16, 17 years old. And we went out and hit the various parking lots where in our neighborhood, we knew while we're driving through, this is where the prosperous BMWs are. We only work on BMWs and Mini Coopers, so it made it real easy. Once we see cool cars, it's kind of like you leave it on that person's car. Sometimes you leave it with them, and it strikes a great conversation. People are grateful because you didn't just leave a piece of business card on their car. Most people just hit the wipers and off it goes, but they're actually getting a gift. And they hang the air freshener on their rear view mirror. And it's funny, Brian, because my wife and I went to lunch here in Pasadena, and there was a BMW that we saw parked right next to us. It had our air freshener on it. So I took down the license plate number and, phoned in on the text and said, "Hey, did you guys get this in your system?" And they said no. So it's nice to know that some people are getting it. They're benefiting from the free gift aspect of it. But to my point, this is very effective. On the front of it, it says, your mechanic should be as awesome as your BMW. When the new car smell fades, it's probably time for a new awesome mechanic.
That's great. So there's a couple of things there to really pay attention to. And, one of those is the fact that you're not just putting an advertisement on someone's car. You're not just putting something on their car and asking them for something. Instead, they're actually giving something to the client. They're giving them this air freshener. It's a gift. But the other thing is, how many times have you gotten in your car after the car's been sitting in a parking lot, and oh my gosh, if it's raining, it's even worse. But you get in the car and there's something under your windshield wiper. Now you have to get back out of the car and get it. Well, the way that they set this up, it goes on the door handle so that people have no choice but to see it before they get into the car. So it's not something that bothers them. It's not something that creates a negative thought about the business. And instead, it's a gift and it's convenient. So I love that. So Tatsu, you have basically the same thing?
Mine's a little bit different. I hate air fresheners. I don't like that smell of the whatever it is that is. I guess that just it's just Japanese of me. We like subtleties, so I don't like the smell. So I don't give anything like that. But mine, actually just thought of how I can describe this, and as I was listening to Tim do it, at first on my lap, I had this one, which says, fabulous Prius. This is cookie cutter. There's a couple of shops in our 20 group that has taken this template and used it for themselves. I took it a step further. Here's the newest version of that same card. I made it personal. So instead of, having something generic where it says, we love your wonderful Prius, now it's we love your Prius, and it shows me hugging the car in front of our shop. So it kind of gives a personal effect to it. So it's funny. I had one of these cards on a Land Cruiser, and we have cards that are specific to some of the makes and models. Obviously, Prius is really specific because Prius is a car that is still stereotyped as it can only go to the dealers. And a lot of people think that because it's a hybrid, it just cannot be seen by an independent shop. So that card for the Prius had to be special. I have a Toyota card. I have a Lexus card. I have a Toyota truck card because Toyota truck people love their Toyota trucks. pretty much anything specific that's worth working on at our shop. We're a Japanese specialist, so the card is as such. I mean, some of them are still generic, but some of them, as we get nice examples of this, I'll bust out my nice camera and take a photo of the guys hugging the car.
So what does the process look like for each of y'all for actually getting these onto cars? Like, is there a dedicated time that somebody goes out and, you know, puts these on cars, or is it something that you just kind of do when you're out and about and see one?
You go first.
Tim, we'll start. Well, you want to start with me? Okay. Well, for me, I have a young man, and I call him young because he's only a little bit younger than me, but he had a little bit of hardship growing up, and he's basically, to a certain extent, unemployable. He goes out to Chamber of Commerce meets for me and stuff like that. But he also goes out into the parking lots and goes hits up cars. And I give him like an allowance or something of that nature, like maybe 500 cards a week or something like that. And that's I pay him like 50 cents a card. So
Very cool.
yeah.
And as for us, we've got a little cinch bag that has our BMW logo on it, and we've put a bunch of these cards inside. And there's 5 different scents, so we wanted the customer to keep coming back. So on the back of the card it says, if the scent has faded, bring your car in for a free inspection, where we do a quick visual inspection, and we'll give you a different scent. And we've got 5 different scents, so the idea is to have the customer keep coming back for those scents. So we put one in our shuttle car. We put a couple in our loaner cars. Johanna and I have them in our personal cars. And what we try to do is, in the evening, as we're going home and you're seeing more people going to the gym, as it were, there's a couple of spots here that we've targeted and we found it effective. There's a certain parking lot here in Pasadena that has like a gym, a little Panera's eatery, Ralph's grocery store. So it's close to our house. It's in between our house and our shop. So it has been a lake bed of good progress over there. So in the evenings, Johanna and I on our way home, we'll stop by. Perhaps we'll be grabbing something from the grocery store. So we'll just scope out which cars that we like. Obviously, we don't want junkers, and we'll want to go ahead and put that on their door handle. And we found it very effective because the very first time we had this campaign go out, my son was doing it at the time. This was before he took off to the Navy, but we basically give him a small outline of which vehicles that we like, that we have found to have profitable repairs, and he identifies what those vehicles are. So he's not just putting them on every single BMW, because, you know, not everybody's our customer, right? So we want to work on the clients that we know that we're able to serve, the cars that are profitable, and the cars that are newer, the cars that are coming out of warranty that have maintenance repairs. And these are the people that relate to that. So we tried to see what would our customer like and appreciate, and then how can we cater towards their needs, but also get them to come back. Because I think the 5 cents was a key player in this, is because we always have marketing and advertising that we do, but if we can keep that marketing and advertising going, that's when you're going to be casting and fishing and reeling and doing it long-term wise.
Brian, do you remember what our things were? We had
Well,
2 very specific ones.
Yeah, we had one that it said on it. It was a picture of our shop with the technicians out front, and it said, "We don't cut corners, but you can." And then each corner was a little coupon. And this was when we first, started out, and we were doing coupons or anything that we could to get people in. But then we also had the just our business card that we would put on cars. But I think Kim's talking about something different. I think she's talking about a dash pad thing that we did.
A cellmate.
Yeah, so go ahead and tell them about that, because, man, people loved that thing.
In fact, I have one right around here. I know that those who are listening can't see it. So we just came across a big box of old stuff, and we found several of them in there. So it was, I don't know, like 8 inches wide, 4 inches tall, and it's this sticky pad, but it's not sticky. And you would peel off the back and it adhered, but it didn't leave a residue. It wasn't like a sticker, and it would sit on the
like a
dash of the
cling.
vehicle. Like a cling, yeah. And people's like cell phone or whatever wouldn't slide all over. A lot of times they sit on their car on the seat and it falls off onto the floorboard, but this kept it right there. But it had our logo and our website and phone number debossed or embossed or whatever on there. And people just loved it. But we also, so that one we gave out to our customers, but we also gave it out more, it was an expensive piece, so we gave it out more specifically to people that we would meet or at an event or something like that. But then we also had those like accident kits. Do you remember those? It was just a small, tiny little pouch that you could put in your glove compartment, and it shocked me how much people just love those things. And I think it's just that they felt like you were just giving them something. I don't know that they even really cared. And brace yourselves, right? This was back before phones were so crazy popular, right in your hand. It had not a Polaroid, but a little tiny little digital, but it wasn't really digital,
No,
camera.
it was just a
in it.
disposable camera, a little
Was
like
it?
cardboard thing. Yeah.
And so like if they got in a car accident, they could take pictures of what was happening. And we had our information, even though we weren't a collision shop, they just loved it. So that was fun stuff.
So, and those were things that, of course, we gave to people once they became clients, or like Kim said, at an event or something. It wasn't something that we would go put on the car. But, in our case, we had the thing like the business cards and that coupon that we would go put on cars. And I can't say that I ever had anyone say anything negative about it. And I've heard, so many coaches or shop owners say you don't ever put something on anyone's car. But both of you are given an example of something that you put on cars, and it sounds like it's really well received. What has been your experience with that?
Tim, you want to start or you want me to go? It sounds like Tim's
You
a little
broke up there.
predisposed
What
at this
is our
moment.
experience with what again?
With
So Go ahead.
I've always heard like shop owners and coaches say not to put something on people's cars because you'll make them mad. But I never had an issue with that. I never had anything but positive feedback about it. What has your experience been with this?
It's actually been positive. We had a couple of confused phone calls. Some folks were like, "Hey, I found this thing on my car. What is it?" We're like, "It's an air freshener. It's a gift for you guys." They're like, "Really?" We're like, "Yeah, just open it and hang it in your rearview mirror." So a couple of confused ones, but I didn't have any negative effects. Now, when we started going into COVID, obviously we used our discernment and held back from having things that are contact points and making sure that we're safe. But as things start opening up, now we're starting to get back into leaving these, we call them bird droppings on the cars. And Brian, I'll tell you, they're quite effective. I think the whole entire setup that we had ran us at about $2,500 to do this campaign. And the very first job that we brought in from this was an oil service, and that customer was blown away by our process and how things work in our shop. And I think that ticket came to about $2,000. So within a very short period of time, it pays for itself. I think the part of it that I really liked is you're getting your team involved in this, so they feel like they're a part of the marketing process. And it's not just the owners doing this and saying, "Here you go, this is what we're going to do." When you're getting the staff involved with the scent and what should we write and what logos, what do you guys want to see on here? It makes the sales and the marketing aspect really come together because now it's their own. They're able to pitch it and give an informative explanation as to why we did this. We're basically just saying, "Hey, come meet us.
Yeah.
Have a cup of coffee, shake our hand. Come see our shop, look at what we've done for our community, and if that's something that you want to do business with, then that's fantastic. And if not, hey, here's another gift for you."
I love it. Tatsu, what has your experience been?
Well, I was about to say something earlier, and I got sidetracked, and my brain went elsewhere. But
Squirrel.
I had a Land Cruiser customer. Yeah, I'm squirrel brained. I had a Land Cruiser customer basically tell me, I'm like, I hate these things, and but yours is so beautiful that I just couldn't ignore it.
Wow.
I did have one person. And I had personally hit this parking lot up in Anaheim Hills, and one dropped into the door, and she was pissed as all hell. But oh well, for the most part, it's been positive.
What
So
did she think you got in or
can't
something?
can't. Well, she thought that the flyer would mess up something internally on her
Oh my
door,
gosh.
and she wanted me to extract it. And oh well, you know what? She never showed up to have me do it.
Now,
Yeah.
They're
Kim,
still watching.
So
Good and bad. They're still watching. It's publicity.
yeah.
yeah, exactly. But I don't think I want that customer in my shop.
So, Kim brought up this idea of these other things, that we, give to people once they become clients, and both of you have something cool that you do with that also. Tell us a little bit about that.
I'll go first. Tim went first last time, so I'm wearing it right now. It's a T-shirt, and let me stand up and turn backwards. I think he. So I don't know if you. Everybody who comes to the shop that knows my father knows that he's a very stoic person. He's very quiet, doesn't say much, and it's a bunch of emotions. And every emotion, regardless of what emotion it is, it's him with the same face. When I first made this T-shirt, my dad hated the T-shirt. He's warmed up to the idea though, and he now gives it out with a smile to the customers, which is kind of funny. So, but yeah, I mean, I got the idea from a local body shop that gives out T-shirts to their customers, and I see their T-shirts all over town. So
That's
Very
really
cool.
fun, especially that he is on board now. So I love that. And he's smiling. So there's a different emotion. That's good stuff. What do you do when the customer says, "Please don't give me a T-shirt. I already have so many T-shirts."
I haven't come across that yet. Actually, I'm kind of frugal, so I'll ask them. I'll say, "Hey, did I already give you
No,
a
do you know
T-shirt?"
why I'm saying that?
So
Because you told
why is
us
that?
that.
Did I?
I was just getting ready to do that, and Jero said, actually, he gave us his T-shirt size, but said he has a lot of T-shirts. I was like, all right, well, I'm going to do something different for him. I love it. I think it's
Oh
funny.
yeah. I remember that now. Now I was yeah.
I'm
So,
Yeah.
just
and
ribbing you.
for those of you who are listening, you'll be able to see this on our YouTube channel. If you go to the Shop Marketing Pros YouTube channel, you'll be able to see the shirt that Tatsu just showed, and also the bird droppings and anything else that we
Yeah.
happen to
I,
show
I
on
got
there.
to mail I got to mail you the T-shirt out. So
All right, Tim, tell us what you do.
We got something very similar. Like I said, we got these cinch bags when we had our last open house. They're very inexpensive, quick little shoulder backpacks, and we at first we were doing them, just as a thank you to customers for coming in, but we started getting a little bit more serious about it. After our open house, we had some T-shirts as well, so we've got two styles of Beamer PhD T-shirts. So we'll ask the customers, what size is your T-shirt, and do they like the Beamer PhD traditional style, or do they like the M-Rain baseball, shorty, a little bit longer sleeves, but quite shorty. So,
hey Tim. Hey Tim.
yes.
Whenever you ask the women, they're always the small.
Okay, so that brings I'm very glad you brought that up because my service advisor and Johanna were talking, and and Johanna goes, "I would never wear a T-shirt like that." I said, "Even though it's cool," she goes, girls don't need to wear t-shirts. So we went to prove the point, right? So I was helping out in the counter in the front with my two service advisors, and we had a swag bag that we gave away to a customer, and in it I had the clip, the air freshener, a pen, a shirt, and I asked her, I said, what would you want in a gift bag? I said, would a t-shirt be something you would wear? And she kind of looked at me and she's like, I don't want to tell him. And I was like, it's okay if it's not something you would wear. She goes, no, not really, but I'd probably give it to my son and my husband. And I asked her, I said, what would be something that you would appreciate getting from a small business? And she was kind of like, well, I don't know. I'm not really certain. We're like, well, what about a tumbler? A coffee cup or like a water tumbler, or a sunshade. And she goes, yeah, I think I would appreciate that. So last week we put in our order for sunshades that go in your windshield, and it advertises your logo right across it. And then we've also got some water tumblers coming. So this way we can switch it around with variety, seeing who's getting what. And I'm telling you, I think, at least from my vantage point, I'm not a service advisor. I'm not a technician in my shop anymore. So it's nice when you're having these conversations with the customers to say, hey, thanks for coming in. Thanks for trusting us with your vehicle. Thanks for trusting us with your business. And they really appreciate being able to walk away with something in their hands. Mama used to say, don't show up empty-handed. So when our guests come to our house, we leave them with a gift. And I think doing that leaves such a lasting impression, because people relate to that, and we want family people anyways. So,
Kind of
families relate to that kind of hospitality.
sprinkling some Southern hospitality in there. I see you. And Tatsu was just holding up
Yeah, it's okay.
another thing. Yeah, it's awesome.
So we got to go back to the open house thing, but let's first talk about the beer glass. So both me and Tim are one of our mentors is Ron Anchowsky over at CMW, Coast Motor Works, and what he did, and I got this idea from him, is give wine glasses out to the local fancy restaurants, and same thing, sort of. This is a beer glass that I give to a local ramen restaurant, and I've also done the thing where during COVID you had the hand sanitizers. Well, we got a big hand sanitizer stand and put it in front of their business, and it has our marketing paraphernalia on it. So I've gotten a few customers out of that. I mean, it's just one more subliminal point where you see the customer, and the customer sees you and your logo and whatnot.
Yeah.
So I've had a few customers come out of that as well. So
That's a fun
yeah.
idea. I like that. I'm not even a beer drinker, but I love those glasses. Every time we go somewhere, we come home with one. I like them. We have some actually well, we're out of them, I think.
For our parent company. So, well, all right. So let's shift the topic a little bit, because I know that the two of y'all are in a 20 group together. Y'all met at this 20 group, right? And that has been
Yep.
something that I know that both of y'all speak very highly of. You've had, sounds like a great experience there. So, let's get into that topic a little bit, and talk about the 20 group and what that has meant for your business.
Tatsu, you start. Y'all are being
Everything.
super polite
All
and
right,
quiet,
cool.
you two guys.
Yeah, Tim being quiet. What? So
Following along.
I got back. Go ahead.
So I'm following along.
What's up? Yeah. So I had gotten into the 20 group. At the time, it was Smart Groups from WorldPack. It's currently Gear Performance Groups. We just changed over. Cecil has changed over to his own group. So, but yeah, I had gotten in. Let's backtrack a little bit here. 2008, I moved back from Japan, and I figured I needed a lot of growing up in Japan, and I And after I was done with Japan, I was like, well, I think I'm ready to take over Dad's shop. And I come home and I find that find myself working as a technician in Dad's shop for probably 6 years at that point. And my sales rep says, "Hey, there's the summit. I think it was the summit. Yeah. What do we just go to in Florida? That thing in Florida that we have. Oh,
STX.
it's
That's it.
STX. Yeah, and STX was happening at Disneyland at this particular time, and it was right down the street. So my sales rep for WorldPack just sneaks me in and says, "Here's a couple tickets. I want you to go." And he obviously saw something in me where I needed to grow or get something going on where I can basically take over Dad's shop, which I really haven't at that point until I was a technician in the back. In 2013 rolls around April, and I have the computer at the shop just takes a big dump. We lose everything. Dad was using handwritten work orders at the time, and all the records were kept on an old DOS program. And I was like, all right, that's it. We're putting a modern point of sale in the shop. And at which point I moved from the back of the shop to the front of the shop, and I couldn't deal with I was doing juggling both at the same time for a little while, but I realized very quickly that I couldn't do both. And so fast forward, I'm in the 20s group. There's a lot of tips, tricks, better ways of doing businesses that I learned through this group. When I first started in February 2014, I had 290 cars in the shop a month. This is a 7-bay shop, and we were average repair to order of like 160. Fast forward a couple more years, and we are down to 90 cars a month and an average repair order of like, I think it was close to 1,000 or something like that. And there we go. I mean, what a big turnaround. It was roughly the same revenue. So it, and on top of it, one of the cool things about the 20 group is that you have other shop owners that you can bounce off ideas. And it was roughly around that time that Tim was joining the group as well. So go ahead, Tim.
Yeah, it's awesome. I mean, I joined the group and I was a learner. I think I felt like what Brian said in one of your podcasts before. I was like, oh, I got to do this and I got to do that. Oh my God, I got to do my marketing and get my AROs. I understand what's going on with that and fixing our labor rates. And we didn't know how to do any of that stuff when we first got into the 20s group. And I think working with a 20s group is much different than having a personal coach, because not only are you working on some of the things for your own business, but you're learning from other businesses. One of the most enjoyable parts that Johanna and I really appreciate about the 20s group is visiting the other shops. Once a quarter we do a shop evaluation, so we go and we meet together, and the morning before kind of talk about current affairs and what's being discussed, what's hot, what's not, what to do, and then we'll go visit the shop. And I think that's the most, to me, instilling part, because you can see where the brake cleaner is kept, why the mop bucket is put over here, and you learn these little tips. Tatsu will tell you the very first time I had the shop evaluation here at my shop, man, I got butthurt. I took it all personal because, this is your baby. This is your business. So you don't want somebody coming in and telling you what to do. And, that's not right. And this is not right. But, as you mature, and like Tatsu was saying earlier, in the evolution of being a shop owner, as you mature, you learn and understand that there's going to be a point where you're going to learn to do those things right. And I think that's what I've appreciated about being in the 20 groups is I've learned marketing. I've learned how to learn and understand the numbers, because you're turning in your numbers every 30 days, and you're in a group of 9 to 12 other shop owners who are all also turning in their numbers. And this way you're able to see, okay, where do I fit? Why did they do that? How did they get a discount on, their credit card fees? So it's these little edges that give the shop owner the opportunity to come home and think and grow. And how can I get better? Because you're going to meet with your buddies again in 30 days, and then you're going to meet with your buddies again in another 30 days. And the next thing you know, Tatsu and I have been in this group 20 years. Oh, I'm sorry, 10 years now. And you realize how much you've grown as a business owner from where you first got started to the point now we're understanding marketing and we're having different avenues of marketing and bringing in new customers and why I would want to bring in this customer or why I would not want to bring in this customer. And we learn from each other's experiences. I'll tell you, in the Southern California group we're in, we're not just all locally right here. Tatsu is about an hour away down in Orange County. We had Daniel Costa, which was up in the Marine County. So it's nice because you can get together with your friends that are also from different states, and you get to see their progress as well. And I'll tell you, from when I first met Tatsu to who he is today, owning 2 shops and being a clear-headed business owner, and we're still having fun together. It's an amazing thing, and I think I wouldn't have been able to have the success that I have in my business had it not been for being involved in the 20s group and business associations.
So one of the things I really love about it is that, like, you both just talked about how much you got from it, how much you get from it, whether you came in as a technician who's never been in business as far as being a business owner or anything like that, and now you're a business owner. But then Tatsu, you were raised in that shop watching your dad. So there were things that you picked up from him, but then you also went to business school at the same time. So, people getting involved in these types of groups, whether you are green or you have experience, everybody's learning from everybody. And that's what I remember when we had our shop and we started getting involved. We never had, even though y'all are like an hour away, we know shop owners who are in the same city, and they, instead of looking at one another as competition and I don't want to have anything to do with you, they instead really look to one another for how can we help each other? How can we help the industry? How can we be better together for our community? And that's something that happens when you get involved in your industry. It's just a beautiful thing to watch happen.
I mean, for the longest time, I looked at the guys next door as competition. I looked at the other shops around my neighborhood as competition. I didn't know any better that it's better to help each other out. And if it's a shop next door and I can just open up their mind and teach them a few things, I mean, we can. The mentality here is we say this a lot in ASCCA, which is another thing we could talk about, but also the 20 group. But like rising tide raises all ships. So I don't look at people as other shops as competition anymore. I look at, there's enough cars out there. There's people, let's just say for hypothetical reasons, Tim and I are competitors. We're next door to each other. We work on the same damn cars. There's a person out there that's attracted to the way that Tim does things, and there's a person out there that is attracted to the way I do things, however different they might be. And although we mastermind with each other and give each other tips, his way of doing things are different, always going to be different than my way of doing things. He's going to pick up on things from that 20 group that is different from what I pick up from that 20 group. And, that's it. I mean, everyone has a secret sauce. But it doesn't need to be so guarded, I guess, is what I'm trying to say.
I think that our industry as a whole has done a really good job. The influencers in the industry, the coaches, the associations, they've done a really great job at getting that into people's heads that those other shops are not your competition. And look, don't get me wrong. The shop that's down the street that works on the same brand of car as you,
Brian, we're in a bubble.
They're a competitor. And when it comes down to it, you want the cars that are going into their shop to be coming into your shop instead. But at the same exact time that you want that, the shop owners that get it, when that other shop owner comes walking in your door and they need help with something, you will still help them, even though, they, when it comes down to it, they really are competitors. So the industry has done such a good job about getting people to realize that when we work together, it's so much better.
I disagree.
Yeah?
We're in a bubble. You, me, Tim, all the great shop owners that you and I know. And we have a large sphere, but to us it seems large. But what is it? There's like the statistic is there's 240,000 shops in the United States, and only 2% of them go to these learning experiences.
Well, and
Right.
that's what I'm talking about when I talk about the industry, though, is the events, the associations, the people who are involved.
But we're still talking about just maybe 5
Yes.
to 10% total of that whole group. And within our sphere and the people that we know, I know so many shop owners, but I don't know. And it's the same people over and over, right?
Yeah, I agree with you on that 100%. We go to the events, and who do you see? You see the same people there every time. And there's so many that are not involved that don't, if they're not involved, then they don't have the opportunity to share that same, idea, because they're not being taught that this is the way that it could be.
And it's not necessarily that they don't know, because I agree with both of you, right? The ones who are involved, who are going to these events, who are helping one another, who are doing all the things, are amazing. There's so many that are not doing it. And some of them know. Brian and I we're close personal friends with 3 or 4 shop owners that I can think of right now who just flat out will not get involved. They won't go to a training. We've asked them, we've invited them, we've tried everything. And they're just like staying in their little hole, doing what they're doing, not even, it's that you don't know what you don't know thing, right? They don't even realize how much they would grow, how much better they could be, there's so many things, and they just are comfortable. And I don't know if it's...
The learning for me comes in waves, right? There's times when I just don't want to learn. My brain is so saturated, but the fact that I just even keep my ear to the ground as to what's coming down the pike. I think that alone needs to happen for a lot more people.
And I think you get to a point as a shop owner where you realize, you're fixing cars, you're helping people, but helping shop owners or helping the shop next door is equally as rewarding as helping that customer, because now you're building a relationship. You're helping another shop owner see it a different way, and they will appreciate that. We had a small experience here in our shop. We're in the Automotive Service Council of California, ASCCA, and another shop owner sent in their BMW, and they said they're unable to set the timing on it. Can you help us out with it? Totally could. The job took a lot longer. Ultimately, the customer called our shop. Awkward moment, right? The customer of the car from another shop calls, and I think the communication, them being honest and us understanding this is a complex job, opened the door to that customer understanding that we as a team work together. So he got stuck, so he reached out to somebody in his lifeline, and it's a good thing we're part of this association. Once the customer understood that we're both trying to do what is in their best interest, their tone and their guard changed completely. Yep. And that's the rising tide that I really appreciate is, as a shop owner, as a mature shop owner, now you get the opportunity not to just fix a car or, get your shop going. It's rewarding when you help other people as well, because that's a sense of satisfaction that you don't see in this day and age. And when you do, it's like score.
So that's another thing that I know the two of you are both passionate about, or at least advocates of, is these organizations like ASCCA. So y'all are both members of ASCCA, different chapters though, right?
I'm chapter 48. He's chapter 5.
So how many chapters are there?
There you go.
16 total chapters.
Okay. Because a couple of years ago, when when they reached out and asked us to teach a class, I didn't realize that there were so many chapters of it. So it was really super cool to hear about that. I mean, California obviously is huge, so it makes sense for there to be some breakaway groups like that. But yeah, how many members are there?
But honestly, it's the same thing. I think we're a total of about 490 members in California. Shop owner members. There's also members that are associate and vendor members as well, which we need absolutely, so that we can grow and learn from them as well and see what's new in the industry. We couldn't do this without our supporting staff, and that's, as a business owner, that's what I've learned. If you don't have a whole team that's helping you out with this, you're not going to be successful. I mean, one person can only fix one thing for so long, but when you bring the chapters together, you learn from each other. So whatever Chapter 48 was doing, Chapter 5 can adopt, and I'll give you a small example of that. Ira, who was from Chapter 48, would call all of their members before their member meeting and say, hey, we're having a member meeting and hope you can make it. And though we're an hour away and love to visit, I think that meant so much that somebody took the time out of their schedule to call and remind us and say, hey, I'm in this industry and I'm doing the same thing you're doing, but I took a moment to just say, thanks for being a member and thanks for putting up the good fight. And I think that's super critical, is because I took that away, and now, as a growing leader in our chapter, that's one of my favorite things to do, is call the other members and say, hey, the meeting is this Tuesday. Hope you're able to make it. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out to me. And I can't tell you what awesome conversations that sparked on. Hey, while I have you on the phone, man, I'm having an issue with this. And it opens the door to building a relationship. And I think that's the key.
So is that something that y'all use in your marketing? Is the fact that y'all are members of ASCCA?
Absolutely.
To a certain extent, yeah. Yeah. I mean, to be a part of an association of professionals, right? And I think that kind of instills something in the customer to know that I network in the customer. I mean, I network with other shop owners. There was a customer, and the other day, I don't know if you're familiar with Patrick Egan. He used to work over at Kukui. He now does videos, and he had a customer testimonial with one of my favorite customers, and she says, Tatsu networks with other shop owners, and what he doesn't know, he has a knowledge base to tap from, and she had a couple of years ago a problem with the windshield breaking on a relatively new car, and the ADAS calibration. Not a lot of shops. Most shops farm it out, including mine, and just took it down to Scott Brown's shop and had him take care of it. And I just had her deal directly with him. But she was so impressed at the fact that I was willing to open up my Rolodex and say, hey, here's the other shop that does it. I could charge you a whole lot more money if I took it on myself and you made a sublet out of it, but I'll just send you directly to him, and they got it sorted out. And so she was incredibly impressed with that.
Brian and I always talk about helping your customers get to know, like, and trust you. When you do that, you just increase that trust factor so much. You were just talking about it, Tim, with the customer with that vehicle, and then Tatsu, you just had your example. Those connections, I mean, it's not a joke anymore. It's real, but at some point I got the nickname Queen of Connections, and it was because of my being involved in BNI Group, the Chamber of Commerce, the things in the industry. And so customers would ask me for a realtor, or somebody called and asked one time here in Louisiana, do you know an ice cream man? Like, an ice cream man, like who, what? But when you become known as the resource, the value of them doing business with you just increased exponentially, because they know they can trust you with just about anything, because you're using those connections that you have to benefit them.
Not only that, but in California, The big thing here is legality, right? You've heard lawsuits in California. There's all these rules, and Bureau of Automotive Repair dictates what you do. Well, ASCCA holds a seat on the Bureau of Automotive Repair's board. So when they're stuck,
We can still hear you, Tim.
Brian, by the way, yeah. Brian, we lost camera on you, by the way.
Yeah, we're having all kind of technical difficulties today, but I think the audio is good.
I think Tim, what Tim was trying to say is the ASCCA, like a lot of automotive associations, has people that are up in Sacramento for us at the state capitol, working on our behalf, reviewing certain laws that might adversely affect the operation of an automotive, and it might be the most good intentioned law ever, but not carefully thought out or executed. And it might not even have anything to do directly with the automotive industry, but they're reviewing all the new laws that are coming down the pike and saying, well, this is going to adversely affect our ability to stay in business, and they basically encourage us to vote one way or the other. Yeah, and so that the automotive industry can continue to
Oh, yeah.
thrive.
That lobbying is a big part of it. Very, very big part of it. Brian, what were you going to say?
Yeah.
Oh, I have no idea.
Oh, my gosh.
Well, I think we can go ahead and wrap it up. It's been a good episode. We've talked about a lot of different things. We talked about guerrilla marketing. We talked about 20 groups. We talked about industry associations and a lot of other things in between there. So I really appreciate y'all, being a guest on the podcast today. I think y'all brought some really great value to our listeners. Our editor is going to have fun editing this one with some of the technical difficulties that we've had, but it's still going to come out great anyway. And again, we really appreciate both of y'all being here today. Tatsu, is there anything that you'd like to leave our listeners with?
Well, I mean, I hope I'm just reaching out to that one shop owner that's had their blinders on forever, right? And what I want to impress upon them, if it's not our group, then it could be some other group. I mean, whatever group suits you. I know one-on-one coaching is really expensive to hire a business coach. By being in a 20 group, you really get the advantages of not only coaching, but you're kind of divvying up. You got 20 other shop owners out there that are taking what the shop owner might spend in terms of coaching fees and whatnot, and divvying it up 20 different ways, and you're sharing his time. But not only that, but you get to know, and I know probably close to 200 shop owners all across the United States that I can call up and say, hey, how would you take care of this problem, and not necessarily car related, but the business of working on cars. And I love having that resource, because you not only have the coach, but you have the other shop owners that are forward thinking like you, and I want to push the industry ahead into the future.
Yeah, that's great. Well, thank you. Kim, do you want to tell people how to get in touch?
Yeah, but I want to end with one more thing. I love the challenge that Tatsu put out there for shop owners. Even if it's just reaching out to one other shop owner that you can encourage to get involved. I think that's a great challenge. But yeah, people can follow us or get in touch with us. Reach out in just about any way that you want to. We are kind of everywhere, whether it's your favorite social media, Facebook, Instagram. We are on TikTok. You can obviously go to our website, which is shopmarketingpros.com. One thing we would really love for people to do is to send us an email at podcast@shopmarketingpros.com and tell us a topic that you would like for us to cover. Or if you have, if you want to be a guest, or if you know someone that would be a great guest, we'd love for you to reach out. And then obviously we want to share with you that, Brian wrote a book, The Ultimate Guide to Auto Repair Marketing, and you can go find that you can go to shopmarketingpros.com/book, where you can get linked to Amazon or Audible or however you want to get that book, free PDF. We encourage you to go take a look at that. He's gotten some great feedback on what was in that book, so we'd love for you to go take a look at that right there.
All right. Well, thanks again for listening to the Auto Repair Marketing Podcast on Aftermarket Radio Network. There's some other great shows on the network, and you can find them at aftermarketradionetwork.com or on your favorite podcast listening apps like Spotify, Apple Podcast, Google Podcast, and many others. Tune in for another episode next week, and until then, go fill those bags.